How's everybody doing, and welcome to the fish room. Tonight I'm going through feeding some fish, but I thought I'd do an update on some of the babies I have that are obviously being born, they're growing out. Just kind of a little bit of a fish room update, little tour on all the new babies and the growth in the fish room. I got a couple tanks I'm really excited about, so let's go ahead. I'll take a look at some of those things, and we'll also do a couple feedings. This tank here I'm real excited about, and I will show you, but got some baby Bristlenose Plecos I just spotted not even a couple minutes ago, so we'll take a look at those guys. As you guys already know that follow the channel or are subscribed, I breed Guppies, German Blue Rams, Bristlenose Plecos, and some Angelfish. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the fish that are only about a week old. Some things that have been growing out and some things that are just starting to breed. But let's go through, take a close look at some of the fry, and we'll kind of just keep going through with the tanks and everything that's new. Here we have a trio of Guppies that are from my crossbreeding project. This male right here had a real nice squared off tail, a little bit more red than the rest of them, so I wanted to kind of separate them, breed him to some of those females there. And as you can see up here, we have some baby Guppies. These guys are a few weeks old now, but they're doing well. Was excited to spot these fry a couple days ago, probably about a week ago, but they're doing well. They're hanging out, breeding this 20-gallon long. We also have our spot Bristlenose Plecos in here. They're kind of hanging out. Once I add some food, they'll come out. But you can see some real young fry in here, and some are a little bit older. That guy just kind of went to the yarn, is kind of hiding out. Lost them for a second, which is good though, because they have lots of hiding places. But we have two females in here, and they both dropped fry about a week or two apart. So we got two different ages of Guppies in here, and they're doing well, so I'm excited about that. Here we have some really cool Bristlenose Pleco babies hanging out on the driftwood. Some real nice red marbles, super reds, variety of long fins between our commons and our albinos. I had these guys in my last video, so if you haven't checked that out yet, go ahead and check out my last video on breeding the Bristlenose Plecos and a simple setup for them. But these guys are starting to put on a little bit of size, looking really good. Excited to grow these out. This is a pretty cool pair of my purple painted Delta Guppies. Breeding for squared off tails, purple, and a lot of color. So you can see that female's got some really nice like yellows in her tail. So I think that's gonna help me continuously work on improving my females, because to me the females are just as important as the males. And we do have fry in here. These guys, I marked them last week when they dropped their fry. Not a ton of babies in this tank, but definitely any babies are still exciting. And in the same tank, I'm breeding some super red Bristlenose Plecos, waiting to spot some babies in here. But here you can see the male kind of hanging out. He's been in and out of this cave nonstop. So excited to spot some fry here in the future. And this guy here is one of my albino Plecos. And whenever he turns, he's got some spotting on his side. So pretty cool. You can almost kind of see it there. If it'll kind of focus in for us. He's got really cool color on his other side, so that might go to my spot Pleco breeding project in the future. We'll see. I'm going to grow them out, see what I get. I might end up having two different strains of my albino spots and my blue eye lemon spot Plecos. In there you kind of see that marbling on the side of that darker pattern, so pretty cool to get some dark pigment in an albino fish. Here's my German Blue Ram breeding setup. You can see some of the adults right here. Two of the males kind of hanging out pretty big, and there's lots of females for them. They just have some flower pots to go around, and they'll pick a spot and breed. But I did just have these guys spawn just last night, so we could take a quick look at their eggs and some fry growing out. I removed the air stone, but here's how I kind of hatch my fry. I put them in a container. The room is heated. You can see over there we have a bunch of eggs inside this flower pot. So after a few more days, these guys will start leaving that flower pot, and there'll be wigglers move around in here. And then after a while, I only have a couple babies in here, but this is what I'll put them in. Keep them in the container, add some moss. I've been trying out some different ways to grow these guys, a little bit less involved. You can see a fry there by that bubble hanging out, swimming around. Still feeding them the baby brine shrimp twice to 3 times a day. Usually just morning and night, because all the food doesn't get sucked up by the filter because I'm only using an air stone, and the plants hopefully will give some more microorganisms for the feed off of, and also keep the water clean. So testing that out with more plants where I can be less involved to grow these fry. That one we just looked at, those guys are about 2 weeks old, and the eggs obviously are only a few days old. Right here in between, these are about a week old, and I have that same approach where I'm trying to kind of change the way I'm breeding these guys. But we got lots of germ blue rams in here. You can even see the baby brine shrimp still wiggling around. I fed these guys like 3 hours ago. They're still a little bit young to be feeding, but they're starting to swim around. Their egg sacs are shrinking up, so they'll be feeding on that brine shrimp. Hopefully I can raise these guys in a container like this with just an air stone, some live plants, and hopefully, like I said, I want to be as easily to breed these guys as possible and raise them without being super involved. So if this works with just an air stone, a container, and some live plants, really going to help me maximize my production without having too much labor intensive work on growing out these germ blue rams. Here's a trio of my red guppies here, working on getting more color in the females and longer fins. So those females there are kind of hand-picked. The color starts to creep up their spine. They have the red in their back fin and their top fin, and then really excited to kind of work that color up through the fish, getting more of a solid red guppy. The male had more of a squared off tail, but he must have got some nips in there. But still really nice fish, good genetics, and they just had babies last week. So the red guppies, in my experience, at least my strain, are more of baby eaters. So I don't know if because the females are normally larger and they like to prey on their fry, or they're just more of a baby eater, but kind of hard to get large numbers for the reds for me, but excited that it's working right now. And I got a dozen or so fry in this tank, so gonna keep growing these guys out, working on getting better and better color each generation. As for the angelfish, I have 2 tanks. One I have like probably a couple hundred angelfish in. This tank probably only has maybe 12 or 15 angelfish. But I've been selecting ones with nicer finnage, more color, and I'm growing some of these out for a customer. I'll be setting up in that 150 gallon aquarium. So that tank will be up and running in the next few weeks. So I will do a quick video on that. I won't be able to talk much through it. So maybe I'll just record and do like a voiceover, even though I don't do that much. But some of these angelfish in here that are growing out, doing really well, have some nice body shape, pretty good finnage, and I'm enjoying their color. Super good feeders. They always come up ready to eat. That's most important to me with my angelfish or any of my fish. I want them to be healthy, responsive to food, and then the color and everything else is just a plus. But really cool, these guys are growing out, and I'm very happy with them right now. In this tank, I'm trying something different. More so because I had some small spawns and also running out of tank space. But I'm growing out guppies, rams, and angelfish all in one tank. So some of my spawns I only had maybe a dozen or so of different babies, and they all were born around the same time, so they're at the same size. So I started mixing them. I have some red guppies in here, the germ blue rams, quite a few Bristlenose Plecos in here hanging out. Right there's a nice little blue eye lemon pleco growing out with a fat belly. And even the angelfish. This spawn wasn't very good. I have a few calls to make. But the ones that are doing well, I think because I have such few numbers, like this guy that's swimming away from us, their fins are just exploding. I don't know if it's because of the genetics or it's because of the space I'm giving them. Probably a little bit of both. The few ones that have deformities down there, I'll probably have to call, but some of these angels in here are doing really nice. Their fins are super long, they're very active, they eat food well. But I almost gave up on this spawn and just called them all, but out of the 12 or so, there's probably 4 or 5 really nice angelfish in here. So not a great success, but the ones that are in here I'm happy with. I'm glad I held on to them and I'm growing them out. Some really nice finnage and nice color, so never give up on a spawn, even if you only get a few nice fish out of it. It's definitely still fun, it's still worth it. And trying something different in this tank. Sorry it's starting to get a little dark in a few of these tanks because my timers are kicking off. But I am breeding some of my yellow half black guppies in here. You can see a male and female up there. I have a trio, there's the other female swimming around, but they just had a bunch of fry. And it's actually good that it's late now because they like to hide a lot during the day. which is good. This is why I have a high survival rate. They have so many hiding places to dart away. Feeding them some crushed flake foods and some baby brine shrimp twice a day, and got a good 20 babies or so the last couple days. And still really enjoying to work with these yellow half black guppies, because initially they were one of my favorite pure strains of guppies. This will probably be one of the last tanks I show today. Haven't gotten any babies out of guppies yet in this tank, but I'm really excited for them to have babies and grow them up, because these are some really colorful, fancy guppies. This male here I'm really excited about. Super nice color, really nice finnage. He's got a little bit of a nip in his fin, but that's just from other fish. Wasn't like that initially, so I know he has good genetics, good finnage, and more importantly in this tank, I have a couple random Bristlenose Plecos like that common one right there that have been growing out, and I did add a pair of super red Bristlenose Plecos. These are what I showed initially in the beginning of the video, and just tonight for the first time I spotted some fry. So there's one there in the back hanging out. There's another one up here up front, a few of them hanging out in the fake plants. But I'm gonna try to shine a flashlight in here, see if we can see any more babies in this cave with the male, to see if we have maybe 10 babies or maybe there's 50 or 60 in here. I'm not quite sure. There's the female. She's not super big. They're still a young pair, but they're old enough. They're breeding, and the super reds are really high in demand. I have people always ask me for them, so I can't have enough of these guys. Trying to really spread out some pairs, grow out some babies, and hopefully I'll have these guys commonly available in the future. And with my paint Sharpies I wrote on the tank, I added this pair on 413, and today on 430 I finally spotted some babies. But getting a flashlight out here, taking a look with you guys for the first time. I'm not sure if we're going to see any babies in the cave or if they've already all left. Right now, it seems like I have a couple in there. There's actually a decent amount in that cave. Let's see. Kind of fight the glare. Bear with me, guys. So it looks like there's a few babies still in the cave, but they're at that size where they're absorbing their egg sac and they're all starting to leave the cave, which is why I must be spotting them for the first time. The male is still showing some fanning behavior, so super recently that these guys all just left the cave. I'm going to go ahead, feed them some algae wafers, break them up in lots of pieces, spread them throughout the entire tank. But so far they're looking really good, a nice red color. Just line breeding these super reds to get more and more red plecos over time and not crossbreeding these guys. And that's really the goal for all my plecos that I'm breeding. I have some crossbreeding, but the only reason I do it is to create something new and to get more of what I'm looking for. So if I don't have enough reds or I don't have enough calicos, I'm going to breed things that carry those genetics to kind of try to create more of them. And then in the future, I'm going to grow them up, breed them back to each other, and line breed these fish. You only want to breed the best of your fish that you have, the nicest selection, because you're going to create the healthiest fish and the most colorful ones. But really excited to spot some super red plecos. It's been a few months, maybe 2 months, since I had any red babies from any of my pure strains. So excited that I moved these guys into their own tank to let them breed. I had them in a 55-gallon tank for a while, and I think they were just a little bit overwhelmed with the space. And I've never bred plecos in a 10-gallon tank, but this pair was a little bit smaller, so I thought I'd try something new, and I'm glad that it worked out for me. Thanks for watching, guys. Kind of just a late night, last minute video. I saw some cool stuff I wanted to share with you. But if you liked the video, go below, like it, comment, check out some of my older videos. At the end of the video, I will put some videos up there you guys can click on. But we'll end this video with a tank right behind me here. I have a lot of baby Bristlenose Plecos, so let's go ahead and feed them and kind of watch them just swarm on the food, because it's super cool to see them when they are super food responsive, and at night they like to come out and I'll just graze on the food. As for what I feed my plecos, right here I have a handful of some algae wafers. I don't typically feed this much, but every once in a while, maybe once a week, twice a week, I'll give them a little bit extra food to kind of encourage more growth. And then every once in a while you kind of have a smaller day where you feed less food in the tank. Let them kind of clear their guts out, ready for some more food. But let's go ahead, I'll drop some food over here on this side. It's kind of harder for me to get my hand in there. And then I'll drop the rest of them over on this side, and we'll kind of watch these guys swarm the food, and then we'll wrap this video up.